In my quest to increase the amount of content I provide you guys, I've tested various ideas lately. I've started posting much more often to my Instagram in the form of short educational content, which I also post to a new Shorts YouTube channel, and even dip my toes into the cesspool of TikTok. However, by far the most successful of these has been me making content on this channel talking about fake and concept tanks. As I don't really feel like those tanks fit into the Cursed by Design series though, I bring you a brand new series, Fake Tank Friday. We'll be looking at tanks from movies and TV, as well as from a variety of other places. To kick off this series, I figured we should look at what is probably the most infamous fake tank which has cropped up in the tank community. Allow me to introduce the one and only KV-6. At an astounding 15.6 meters or 51 feet 4 inches long, this super heavy dwarfs even the largest tanks ever built. With its absurd design and history related to it, you might wonder how something like this could have possibly been believed by anyone. If that's the case, then you clearly haven't been around on the internet very long, because believe me, if you can make even a half convincing Photoshop, you can easily find someone gullible enough to believe it. Before we get into the fake nature of this machine and what brought it to life in the first place, however, I think it's only fitting that we slip into the alternate universe where it exists and explain its supposed history. The origin of the KV-6 is said to have come in 1941 when Stalin learned of the KV-2, which was able to hold off an entire German panzer division for more than a day. Likely, this is referring to the heroic stand at Ryazany we talked about in my KV-2 video. Seeing this success, Stalin immediately ordered the start of a new program for a land battleship on the basis of the KV-2. The joint team of Kot and Barkov were given the project, quickly making complaints of how long the tank was. This was caused by Stalin's insistence on the tank having 3 turrets, as clearly the SMK had performed so well with 2. Despite the engineer's concerns of its turning radius, he simply replied, "It does not need to turn, it will drive straight to Berlin." Upon completion, the design was designated the KV-6 Behemoth. The utilization of parts from the KV-1, KV-2, BT-5, T-60, and T-38 was deemed necessary due to the pressure Stalin was putting on the designers. And if there's one thing you don't want to do, it's upset Stalin. Weighing in at a staggering 138 tons, it was clear that no bridges would support this monstrosity, so it was designed with weighting devices to allow it to cross rivers up to 2.7 meters or 9 feet deep. Clearly, with its top speed of 13 miles per hour, this would be a very simple task, especially since the length would surely not impact this at all. With the overall size of 51.6 meters as I mentioned earlier, and a height of 4.65 meters, 15 feet, it would also carry a removable observation tower to allow it to direct the fire from its howitzers and rockets. Yes, you heard right, this tank has rockets. With that said, we can smoothly transition to the armament of this beast. We already covered the turrets, but to clarify further, it has a total of 3 primary turrets along with 4 smaller turrets in a single Katyusha launcher. Starting from the front is a KV turret armed with a 76.2mm cannon with a double-barreled 12.7mm turret on top. Immediately behind the first turret is another small 12.7mm turret, followed by the primary turret of this machine. Here we have a modified KV-2 turret with 2 152mm cannons mounted side by side. Of course, this is nowhere near well armed enough, so an additional BT turret was fastened to the roof to give another 45mm. Just before the engine compartment in the rear, we find the last armament of a final KV turret with a 76.2mm and a final BT turret adorned with a rocket rack for good measure. Just to be safe, the machine did retain the KV-style hull MG, as well as being equipped with 2 flamethrowers mounted on the sides. Exact armor protection of the Behemoth is not known, but it ranged from 160mm at its thickest down to 7mm. 3 of these machines were said to have been built, with the first completed in December 1941 and used for the defense of Moscow. This vehicle was lost due to friendly fire when the rear turret mistakenly fired into the middle turret, caused by a lack of visibility and leading to a total loss of the machine. The second tank was finished the following month and sent to the Leningrad front. Learning from the mistakes of the first design, this one featured indicators for the turrets so the crew would not accidentally fire upon their own vehicle. Upon its first use in combat, this tank was lost as well when it attempted to cross a ravine, only for the immense length and weight of the vehicle to cause it to break in half. During this, the flamethrower fuel was ignited by a spark and the entire machine was again lost. Still determined to deliver on Stalin's orders, a third prototype was completed and again sent to the Leningrad front. Now with both the turret indicators and a reinforced hull, the tank saw some success when it was able to shoot down 3 German aircraft. Later, when engaging a ground target, all the guns were fired at the 3 o'clock position, resulting in the tank flipping onto its side from the immense recoil. This would have been recoverable had it not set off the 152mm ammunition, resulting in a total loss of the vehicle once again. With this final catastrophic loss, the KV-6 claimed 45 lives of its own crew with 15 in each vehicle, all for the defeat of 3 German aircraft. As Stalin is a very forgiving man, the designers who followed his orders exactly as he gave them were given free one-way passes to Siberia for the remainder of their lives. The project was cancelled after that, more likely due to the material cost rather than the lives lost. It is said that the few Germans who did manage to witness these tanks nicknamed them Stalin's Orchestra because of the massive array of weaponry. Now, I won't lie and say that this is a completely unbelievable story aside from the obviously absurd specifics of the design, but it should be clear to most with a basic knowledge of tank design that this is all fake. In reality, this vehicle was created by a model maker named Brian Fowler for a science fiction competition in 1995, later posted online in 1997. For anyone curious, I will link to the original article down below, which gives the exact way he built it, but the short explanation is 2 KV-2 model kits and 2 KV-1E kits, along with parts from a few other Russian tank kits. I need to be clear that this was not done to mislead anyone into believing the KV-6 was real, as the photoshopped images and other media surrounding this tank would not come until later. However, it can possibly be seen as a slight mistake to have included fake reference books in the original article, as many will never bother to look past the fact that sources are listed to see if those sources are actually legitimate. There's probably some sort of lesson to be had there, but I'll leave that for others to discuss. From its initial contest debut, it was later featured on the cover of an April Fool's edition of Boresight. Later, fake historical photos would begin to creep onto the internet on places such as DeviantArt, with one from Sir Zora Crescent, as well as a very detailed cutaway by Von Burr. Over the years, the KV-6 has sometimes changed, with different depictions of it varying slightly. At this point, the tank has become so widespread that it's likely if you have spent any time in the history community, you would have heard about it. The more elitist types in the community may scoff at things like this and claim they mislead people and misinform them, and in some ways I do agree with that sentiment. On the other hand, if someone sees a design this absurd and it causes them to start down the path of researching more about it, not only will it quickly become clear it's a fake, but odds are they will learn more about real tanks while they do it. I mentioned it before in my video talking about Girls in Panzer, but I think the quote bears repeating. The first thing you have to do if you're going to teach history is find a way to make it interesting. Not to mention, with this design being old enough to qualify for classic car plates in most US states, I think it's fair to say that although it's a fake design, it still has cemented itself as a piece of tank history. As far as the real-world KV-6 goes, it's unclear exactly what that design was, as any documents relating to it have either been lost or are yet to be shared publicly. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd love to hear about it in the comments down below so I can take your feedback into account for future episodes. Huge shout out to the Tank Encyclopedia for their article on this vehicle, which really helped to summarize the history of the tank and provide the links to the original information. As always, a huge thanks to my YouTube members who support the channel. Be sure to let me know what fake tank you'd like to see covered in the next episode of Fake Tank Friday, which will possibly be next week, but I'm not sure if this will be a weekly thing just yet. Either way, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss it when I do post the next one. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you then.